audio test, please.
Yeah, if you could just talk to me, and then he'll just regulate the level over there.
Okay, it's kind of hard to talk when you don't know what you want to talk about, you know.
That's exactly right.
But maybe we can make something out. How's it going?
Yeah, how's it going?
Is it all right? Level,
all right.
audio all right?
Audio's okay?
Yeah,
All right.
everything's okay?
Yeah, well, just for the record, if you could give me your name and where you live and who your mom and dad were. That's how we're just sort of referencing everybody.
Okay, my name is Philip Alexis Sr. I'm from Lansing, Michigan, originally born in Watervliet, and I'm from the Rush Lake area, Rush Lake Band. My parents are Mark Alexis and Teresa Alexis. They're known here in southwestern Michigan.
Okay, and did I hear your wife say you were a turtle band?
Yeah, we're members of the Turtle Band.
And we were up north recently talking to the Little River Band at Manistee, and then of course we talked to the Grand Traverse Band, who's got their federal recognition and going great guns. And I was wondering if you could tell me if there are is there any movement in the Potawatomi community toward federal recognition for a band, and what's happening?
The Pokagon Band, the Potawatomi Indian Nation, where we're at today, is seeking federal recognition. It's I think there's 6 groups in Michigan who are in the process of attaining federal recognition, and they're in various stages. Pokagons have completed all of their documentation, submitted that to Washington, and Washington in turn made a preliminary review and sent back a letter of obvious deficiency, and the band has responded to that and currently are awaiting some further action on behalf of the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
How long does it typically take for this process from beginning to end?
It takes quite a long time. I'm not really sure. The Pokagon Band, has been seeking recognition since roughly 1934. Up until then, they had recognition, and it kind of administratively was taken away.
What kind of obstacles why are the feds so careful about federal recognition? What's the problem? What are the obstacles they throw up to you?
Well, there's all kinds of obstacles. I think the reason the feds are hesitant to further recognize other groups is money and its budgets. Once a tribe becomes federally recognized, it gains a special status, becomes a sovereign nation with a different type of relationship with the federal government. And because of that, it also involves economics, and I think economically is part of the reason that they're real hesitant and slow on acknowledging other groups.
What would be the benefits to the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi if you obtain federal recognition?
Well, it would give them, other than the types of advantages they have now, the Pokagons act like a tribe now, but it would give them that sovereign status. It would also mean accessing federal programs and being able to provide additional services to their members.
I noticed that the Grand Traverse Band has used federal recognition in that special market niche that's provided to open up a casino. Do you think that might be a possibility down here, or is it appropriate in this kind of community? Or?
Well, right now I don't know what the feeling of the council is. They previously took in a position that that wasn't one of their major areas to look at as far as generating revenue. Their plan has been looking at private Indian entrepreneurs, establishing other types of tribal businesses, which would be manufacturing things. They do job training programs now, so they had a different philosophy as far as some of the self-sufficiency type programs that they put together.
Right. I mean, you could just see in Grand Traverse that it's like holding a tiger by the tail. If you don't handle it just right, it looks like it be a difficult road to hoe. And they've done a wonderful job.
Well, they're probably the second group that has been recognized. So, but okay, yeah. Sit over there. Go over there, and then you get your picture taken next.
That's okay. Here, why don't you have your dad introduce you since you're both here? Grab this young lady and tell
Okay,
us who she is.
this is my little granddaughter, Amanda Alexis, and come here, Phil. Sit over here on this side. And this is my grandson, Philip Alexis. He's the third Alexis. The junior is coming later on, but they're here with us and going to have a good time. They go with us quite a bit and enjoy meeting a lot of Indian people, and they're proud of their heritage.
Well, you know, what do you foresee for your grandchildren and for as the generations go on in terms of traditional values and traditional Indian values?
I think that's what we're trying to preserve is the language, the crafts, the arts, so that our kids can understand that. And if we can do that, then they'll be able to keep all of those services themselves. And they're both really interested and active in things that we do as far as Indian programs and that.
Do your kids get over to the powwows? Do you go with your grandparents to the powwows? Do you dance yet?
No. We just get on a bigger boat, then we go up, and then I scream.
Oh, all right.
That was at the fair, right?
At the fair? Oh, okay. Well,
What do you do at powwows,
Very
Phil?
fast.
When you go to powwows?
yep. Phil the third, what do you do at powwows?
You dance once in a while, right? Huh?
Lots of fry bread, huh? Or lots of things to play with. That's what I do. I always eat too much when I go to a powwow. I was in the picture there, so got to get out there a little bit. Well, can you let us talk to your granddad a little bit by himself?
Okay, you guys go and let me talk a little bit, then you can come back.
Okay,
All right?
thank you. That's terrific. They're nice kids.
Yeah, they are.
Now
That's my son, Phil Jr.'s kids. Yeah, his two children.
But you know, one of the questions that we're asking everybody, Phil, and this which we asked Greg, we've asked everybody, is one of these things that we are doing in the museum is the first section is called "What Does It Mean to Be Anishinaabe?" and it's sort of posed as though a kid came up to you and said, like a grandchild in a few years, and said, "Well, what is it, Dad? Granddad, I'm in school. I'm making straight A's. I'm going to Boy Scouts. I'm going to the church, but I know that I'm an Indian. And what does it really mean? How would you answer a child who asks you that?"
When I grew up, I didn't really know, there was any special or anything different than what I was. I was around my grandmother a lot, and so I kind of took that for granted a little bit. I think the same kind of question can be asked, like I asked my father, because I remembered a lot of the things that my uncles and my grandmother did, and my grandfathers. And I said, well, how come he didn't remember that? And he said, my grandma, because I said, your grandma was your mom, and she told you that too, because I'm the one who started the basket project and a lot of the other cultural things here. He said, she told me all that stuff, but I didn't listen. She told you and you listened, and you didn't forget. So I never saw myself as different. Of course, I grew up, and the only thing the way I can answer that is I grew up as an Indian, and everybody knew I was an Indian. They knew my parents were, and so and then I was blessed, or the Great Spirit did special things for me, and I was real good in school, scholastically wise. So I graduated as a salutatorian out of my high school class. I could have been the valedictorian if I'd applied myself, but I didn't see any value to it, and so I didn't, and I only missed by 0.02 of a point of being the valedictorian. And that was one class that cost me the grade. And then being an athlete, so I won 25 varsity letters in high school and went to college on a football scholarship. So in the community, I was accepted as they all knew I was an Indian. They didn't, do anything different, and I never saw any prejudice, and I never really looked at myself as being different until I got a little older and came back to the community and started doing things with the people, and I saw a thing that we should try to preserve for our kids. So
that's very unusual, because as you describe your young life, it's a life of, for lack of a better word, total integration in dominant society, and yet you made this special effort to start trying to bring the traditional values back together. What prompted this movement from one to the other?
what happened is I went to college, and then I graduated out of college and came back to this area and worked for the Whirlpool Corporation, and then I became real active in non-Indian politics and involvement in the community. And then my uncle, Jut Pokagon, who no longer is alive, came to my house and asked me to sit on the council, and I told him, well, Jut, I don't know that much about Indians, because I know a little bit, but not that much. And the people don't even know who I am. He said, well, then you come to the elections and we'll have you run for the council. And he said, because what you know, the council doesn't know, and that's what we need. So Jewett is the one who brought me to the council. So I came with all these other ideas, how to do things, how to put them in place, how to speak, make friends, make enemies too, but not real enemies, but disagree. And I knew how to do that, and I think that was what Jut was really wise enough to see at that time, and encourage me to become on the council. I was 25 years old, and I was elected the chairman of the tribe. So I've done some real things, not because of me, because I do it for the people, but because of the involvement that I've had.
Well, it's really wonderful. We have seen, I don't know whether it's exactly analogous, but we've seen people like John Petoskey and Buddy Raphael who've done the same sorts of things for Grand Traverse in a way. They have taken skills that they have acquired outside of the community and brought them to play in the community that's really done wonderful things in terms of services and benefits and good and positive things that have happened.
Yeah, I don't know John Petoskey that well. I know him a little bit, say in the last 7 years since he graduated out of college and came back to Michigan. He was out west, and then he got a job or he's an attorney, and he works for the tribe as their economic development specialist. On the other hand, Buddy Raphael, I know Buddy fairly well, and him and I have done other things. At one time we had a business together, so a lot of us right now, a lot of the Indian people in the state know who I am and have dealt with me one time or another, or even sat and talked, so I know most of them by face, a lot of them by name, and they basically know who I am.
So so it's not as though the Potawatomi are just off down in a corner of the state with the Odawa and the Ojibwe up in the other. There's really a lot of integration of ideas and passing back and forth.
Well, I'm the executive director of the Confederated Historic Tribes, who works with the 5 groups that are seeking recognition, and I'm kind of the person who implements whatever types of project or requests that they have in relation to, it could be economic development stuff, business plans, training needs for their board, or whatever they need. If they ask, then I try to find that kind of help for them.
Tell me a little bit about the history of the 5 tribes. I can't get the words, but Confederation, isn't it?
Well, the Confederated Historic Tribes came about because there were 5 groups in Michigan seeking recognition, and they didn't have any resources, and they didn't have any funds, and they were just, it was all volunteer stuff, and they wanted help, and so they went to the Commission on Indian Affairs and asked for help from the commission. And the commission gave them, I don't know, a small grant to address some of their needs because they all had common needs. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about those needs, where they're at in the process. So the Confederated Tribes then had a board, but they didn't have any staff. So they asked me to come to work for them, so I came to be the director of the staff. Taking the small grant that the commission gave them, we've added other funds to it, and in turn it helped fund the individual tribes themselves so that they run job training programs, they receive funds from ANA. Now they're to a point that they have some staff, maybe a director and a secretary, but they have a person who works full-time for them, who's knowledgeable of their needs, and who can keep things going and doesn't, stop and things get stagnant. So that's what we're trying to do is maintain the staff for each one of the groups. And I guess that's how CHTI, or the Confederated Historic Tribes, came to be.
I see. Well, that's very helpful because we've heard the name, but I didn't really know what it was. I sometimes got it confused with the Michigan Commission on Indian Affairs. Now, what is that group?
I was the chairman of the Michigan Commission on Indian Affairs, along with other things that I've done too. It's a state organization that's created by state statute to assist Indians in the state of Michigan. And it could be working with the federal tribes, working with the urban groups, and working with the urban or rural or the metropolitan community centers. And that's their charge, and they're basically an advocate at the state level on Indian policy.
I see. Okay. So we attended one of their meetings, and there's a very large, diffuse body of projects that they sit there are working on.
Yeah.
Well, one last question. What do you foresee for the Indian community in Western Michigan as time goes on? Or I guess it's almost a two-part question. What would you wish for them, and what do you see happening in terms of their traditional values, the way they live, the way they interact as a group?
What I would like to see, my views are a little different than others. I would like to see them not become isolated, and I would like to, first of all, see them attain federal recognition. When they do that, then I would like them to look at not creating a reservation and isolating the people into a community away from where they're at now. I would encourage them to build their houses in the communities, to maintain the style of life that they have now, and I think it would be a lot more beneficial to them in the long run. What was the other?
Well, what do you foresee? I mean, as you see many young Indian men and women marrying into the white race and the blood quantum becoming thinner and thinner, how can traditional values be pulled together and maintained? Or is this important?
It used to be important, I think, that we maintain the blood culture, and it probably still is. A lot of us are interrelated or intermarried to other groups. It's real difficult if you looked at the Indian people in this area, say southwestern Michigan, because we're all related. We may be, less than third or fourth cousins, which may be all right, but then in a way it really isn't. So it's difficult for the males and females, young males and females, to get together. The one problem that is causing us a problem is as we're developing, we're encouraging our kids to receive a better education. And by doing that, we take the young females and the young males and send them off to universities. If we don't get enough Indian kids into those universities to have that interaction, the natural thing that's going to happen is they're going to be marrying non-Indians. And that's part of what we're doing to them now. So we have to find a way, and that's why a lot of us are looking at creating a support system for the universities in Indian affairs so we can build up the Indian programs on the different universities. I think Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo is one, and Notre Dame University in South Bend is the other. And those are two universities that this tribe right now has programs with and works with. So we're trying to do that, and I think, you know, it's real difficult for us to say exactly what. I'd like to see us, the tribe right now has a big drive going on to save the language, and they have language classes here, I believe it's on Wednesday nights. I'm not sure, I'm not a part of that, but they do that, and I'd like to see them do that. I'd like to see them maintain the other traditional things that we've done. And there is a big movement within the tribe to do that.
Terrific.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.
I mean, just